Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Flourish Field YouTube channel. We are continuing our series on data structures and we've been talking about lists. Last lesson, we learned about how lists are very powerful, what they can do for us, and how to work around them. We also saw their importance in handling data and manipulating data. In this lesson, we want to learn more about lists. We want to talk about indexing in lists. We want to talk about changing items in a list and basic operations in lists. Those are the things we want to cover in this lesson. So let's get right to it. Let's talk about indexing in a list. Now, I uh, I understand that some of us might know what indexing means. Indexing means assigning a position to um to items. It could be in a list, could be in a book, in whichever way. So just assigning positions or numbers to them. Now, when you create a list, Python assign index to them, and the index given to them starts counting from zero. Python starts counting from zero. So for each item that you have in the list, each of them are given a position denoted by a number. For instance, as I said, Python starts counting from zero. So the index for the first item in this list right here is 0. The next index is 1. The next is 2. The next is 3 and 4. Always remember, if you are a programmer or a coder, that Python starts counting from 0. So let's see that in action. Let's see indexing, how we can index for our list. For instance, if I want to know what is at position 2 in my list, from this we can already see that it is bread. But what if I did not know and I want to find out what is at position 2 in the index of my list? So I simply go print to the screen, call the variable name of my list, which is shop A. To get the index, I need to add square brackets and I would add the index. I need to know what is at position 2. So I simply print this to the screen and let's see what comes up. So let me run this now. And there we have it. There we have it. We have bread. We have bread. If you like to know what is at position 4, simply change the index and then we run the code again. And there you have it. What we have at index 4 is tomatoes. But what do you think would happen if I call an index that is perhaps not in the list, say 5? Once I run this now, and you see we get an error, and the name of our error is index error, and it simply says list index out of range. So that means we are looking for a position that is not present in our list. So Python throws up its hand, it throws up an error for us. So you should understand that indexing should be within the range of whichever list you are working with. So I'll just change that to 3. So the next thing I want to talk about is changing items in a list. Now we have our stock of items. We have the egg, butter, bread, jam, tomatoes. What if we are out of stock for jam, or we actually want to change jam to something else? Say you want to change it to bacon. So this is what we can do. You can go ahead, call the list with the index. Perhaps you know the index that you are working with. Say you know it's 3. We know that jam is 3, and then you call the list with the index. The next thing you need to do is you assign it, as in assigning a variable, assign it to another value that you want, and this time we want to use bacon. So changing this to bacon. Let's then go ahead to print out the stock of the shopping list. And there we have it. So in the position where we had jam before, we've changed it to bacon. So we can use indexing to change items in a list. You can also use a for loop to do that. You can also use a for loop to do that to iterate through the list and find out if there is jam present, and whenever you have jam present you can change it into bacon. You can also do that. But let's move on. Let's talk about basic operations in lists. Now, you can work around with lists. You can add them, you can multiply them. We'll also find out if we can subtract lists or if we can divide them. So let's create another list. I'll create a list called workers. In this list called workers, I want to put in just two people. Let's assume two people work at the shop. We have James and we have Michael. So let's try basic operations. Let's try adding the list together. So to do that, let me just quickly print out um, the stock of the shop A, and then I put the addition sign plus workers. So let's see what we have when I print that to the screen. Locking this up. And there we have it. So as you can see, our shopping list and the list of workers got added together and got printed as a single list. This you can save in a new variable if you want to have the the stock of the shop with the workers in one single list together. So from adding lists, let's move on to trying to multiplying lists. So let's go ahead. So we print to the screen this time around. Let's see. Let's try with workers. Let's see if we can multiply workers by 2. Multiply workers by 2. So let's run this and print it to the screen. Let's see what comes up. And there you have it. If we in the initial list that we created for workers, we had James and Michael. We multiply them by 2. The value of James and Michael increased by 1. So we have 2 Jameses and 2 Michaels in our new list. But what if we want to try to multiply a list by a list? Let's see what that brings us. So let's print to the screen workers times shop A. So let's try print that to the screen. Now you see, it threw up an error. It says can't multiply sequence by non-int of type list. It means it can't multiply a list by a list. Essentially, that is what it's telling you. So if you try to multiply a list by a list, it will throw up an error. So you multiply list by integers. So let's go ahead to try divide lists. Let's try dividing a list by an integer. So let's divide workers. Print to the screen. Workers divided by 2. Let's see what comes. So upon doing that, it threw up an error for this line. Workers divided by 2. It says unsupported operand type for list. We can't divide a list by an integer. It is not possible. So if you try that, Python throws up its hands. So let's also try subtracting. Let's try the fourth basic operation, which is subtraction. Subtracting lists. So I want to subtract workers from shop A. So I like to print to the screen. Take away shop A. So once I run this, let's see what comes. Another error. So unsupported operand type for Subtraction. You can't subtract a list from a list. So there we have it. There we have all the simple things you can do with a list. We've covered indexing, we've covered changing items in a list, and we've covered basic operations in a list. If you have any comments or concerns, please drop them in the comment section below. Thank you and see you in the next video.